What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So I've been talking from time to time about the Spawncast Network. People have been asking me exactly what it is. Well, there is a channel called the Spawncast Network that is now live, and content's been going up there over the last couple of weeks, and it's basically a collection of different personalities for smaller podcasts that are a bit more focused maybe on one system or topic. So I'll leave it linked down below in the description if you wanted to check it out. But today we do have a bunch of stuff to go over, which does include more games or reveals for Nintendo's 2023 that could be coming from Metroid and even The Legend of Zelda. We also have Pikmin 4, which is out tomorrow, but reviews did go live yesterday, so we'll see how that did. And Diablo IV is getting absolutely crushed online after a patch went up that, hasn't gone over well with the player base. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're gonna start today with that Microsoft Activision Blizzard acquisition, the deal that just keeps going. But it looks like we're at least coming to an end. We thought it might have been done this week, but it appears that Microsoft and Activision have come to an agreement to extend that deadline out further. We can see this posted up over on Twitter. This is from Brad Smith, who's the vice chair and president at Microsoft, saying, together with Activision, we are announcing the extension of our merger agreement to October 18th to provide ample time to work through the final regulatory issues. We will honor all commitments agreed upon with the EC and other regulators and continue to work with the CMA on the issues raised in the UK. We are confident about our prospects for getting this deal across the finish line. So while they did extend it to October, so October 18th, they're planning to get it done, I would assume, well before that. There's just an additional cushion there, essentially, as it looks like the CMA is also kind of working in favor of let's get this thing done and agreed to well before then, as soon as possible, really. So I'm thinking, again, probably before the end of August, this is all done, the CMA situation is figured out, and we'll finally get that last press release that ends this entire thing with Microsoft announcing that they have closed the deal for Activision Blizzard. Also, we do have a big time release coming up here in a few months from Sony and Insomniac with Spider-Man 2, and it's exciting stuff after what we've seen Insomniac do with Spider-Man on the PS4, Miles Morales, and now Spider-Man 2. But we had a bit of a reveal yesterday that was pretty interesting because what they showed us, people couldn't really figure out initially if it was concept art or a screenshot. Well, take a look. Yes, that's right. We have the debut of Venom. Now, take a really close look at this because people were going back and forth. Is this concept art of Venom or is this a screenshot? Well, it was confirmed by Insomniac on forums. This is a screenshot of the game, and like I said, our first look at Venom looks awesome, by the way. People were still kind of unsure about Peter's symbiote suit, but I think most can agree, yeah, that's definitely Venom there. And it seems like Insomniac, they've really put a lot of thought into just Venom in general in this game and how he's represented. We already know that it's not Eddie Brock, and there's speculation and theories as to who it is, but I would implore you to go through Spider-Man if you have not already from the PS4 in 2018 before you read about that, because it will pose some spoilers. But here's the other exciting part. We should be getting more information today, as there is a Comic-Con panel that'll be going over Spider-Man 2. That starts 2:30 p.m. Pacific in Hall H. So if you're going there, check it out. It seems like they're going to be talking a bit more maybe about Venom or maybe other characters in the game, but I'll keep you guys posted. Oh, and big news for Witcher 3 on the Switch, as a long-awaited patch is finally out. That's patch 4.04, and you can see this over on their page going over all the different patch notes that, again, I'll leave linked down below because it is quite a lot to go over. But one big thing they addressed was the cross-progression stuff. So if you were unaware, you could technically take your game between the Switch and other platforms, but it was a bit more work than really it should be. And now they have addressed that to where it's much easier, and it kind of like uploads your save and then you can pick it up on other platforms or vice versa. And I think that makes a lot of sense for The Witcher 3. If you have a Switch and then you also have maybe a PS5, you can play at home on your big TV using obviously better visuals, but then take advantage of the Switch's core feature, which is its portability, and just move your game back and forth. So make sure you check out that patch and of course get your copy of Witcher 3 updated. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and their 2023, because the second half is looking pretty good for them. I mean, I'm looking at a remake of Super Mario RPG and a new 2D Mario game. that's pretty good for their holiday, but turns out they might have some other stuff in mind. And this is coming way a report from Jeff Grubb, and I want to read the exact transcription from him as he was kind of talking about these two titles, or one title and maybe one just release, and we'll get to that in a second, but let's take a look. This was transcribed and posted over on Famaboards, and it is coming from Jeff Grubb's stream, the 2023's most disappointing Switch games, but in here he did also discuss about some other things Nintendo has planned for 2023. Now, it was mentioned about, okay, we're kind of expecting Nintendo to, of course, have that September or fall direct. I think most of us figure that's going to happen just based on history, but it really came down to some of the titles that were mentioned. Metroid Prime 2 Remastered, according to Jeff Grubb, is probably coming out relatively soonish. That is happening. It's going to be mostly what people want, right? It's going to have the modern controls, and it's going to be in HD and things like that, but it's not going to get the love and care that Metroid Prime got. And this is something we've discussed a bit, in that Metroid Prime Remastered, the one we saw, was going to get the most attention. It makes sense considering it is the first game in the series, and it's one that's a bit easier to sell because when you get to a point where you have a number next to something, it is harder because people wonder, oh, am I supposed to play the first one before I play this one? And they kind of skip out on it. It's a whole thing there with sequels and stuff, right? But in this case, having a lot of attention going to Metroid Prime Remaster, which is an awesome release, makes sense then that, okay, we'll do Metroid Prime 2, but we won't put as much work into it. It'll be remastered, the controls and stuff will be worked out for the Switch, and we'll probably just kind of smooth things out a bit so at least doesn't look really, really blurry, say, on a larger screen. Now, the part that becomes interesting is the way that Nintendo could release this. They don't necessarily have to do a whole build-up for it because they didn't do that for Metroid Prime Remastered. They just shadow dropped that, and then they're like, oh, we'll get the physical copies in the stores later. This, though, Metroid Prime 2 Remastered, could just be a digital release. I don't necessarily know if they're like, oh, we're gonna get $40 for this, even though we didn't put as much work into it as Metroid Prime Remastered. So maybe in their mind, we'll just put it out as a digital version, and they could potentially shadow drop it in a direct, or I thought about this, they could just shadow drop it on Twitter. Nintendo's done Twitter announcements, right, in the past. I don't see why they couldn't do one here as well and keep the Metroid Prime train rolling towards, hope for that Metroid Prime 4 release someday, maybe next year. But then we also got to the other thing that Jeff Grubb started to talk about, which was The Legend of Zelda, because it turns out Nintendo could have one more thing up their sleeve for this year with that franchise. This, again, transcribed over on Fanboards, where he says this next phrase, I'm afraid to say, listen, I don't know what it means, but I'm going to tell you what they told me. If you take this and you spin it into something else, everybody, it's on you, okay? Something not related to Tears of the Kingdom is happening with Zelda later this year. So I know why Jeff is saying it in that way, because he got a lot of flack for the whole thing with Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, that collection that has not materialized yet. Could still happen. Could possibly be later this year for all we know, but it hasn't yet. And in saying something other than Tears of the Kingdom is coming up that's Zelda related, well, you start to consider, okay, other games, remasters, remakes, but what if it's not a game necessarily? I mean, we figured Tears of the Kingdom DLC would come at some point, but this not being Tears of the Kingdom related, what if it's, I don't know, a serial collaboration? What if it's some sort of soundtrack situation there? Maybe they're going to do a really cool release for collectors. What if it's a Lego set? We've seen the Mario stuff happen, and people have been very excited with that. Maybe they do a whole Legend of Zelda Lego set, and that's the big reveal. So I do want to caution people when it comes to that, just in the off chance that it's not actually a game and it's something else, maybe more merchandise related. But Metroid Prime 2 Remastered, I think most of us are kind of expecting it at this point, and who knows, maybe Nintendo just shows up one day and tells us it's available right now. Next up, let's talk about Pikmin 4, as reviews did go live yesterday, and we can see over on Metacritic coming in with a score of 88, which is about in line with the other Pikmin games, usually like high 80s, low 90s. So yeah, this is about right, falls in line there. That's on 68 critic reviews so far, so we do have a pretty big sample size here of different scores. Looking at the split though, 66 positive, and 2 mixed, so it's pretty good overall. In fact, there were some perfect scores in there, and then a lot of 90s thrown around. Dextero seemed to really like the game, saying Pikmin 4 is an absolute delight. It's packed full of humor and charm and never failed to put a smile on my face. Whether you're a hardened fan or a newcomer to the franchise, there's plenty to love in this imaginative, morbid, satisfying sequel. We take a look at Twinfinite. They say this is my first true Pikmin experience, and even as a newcomer to the series, I found myself completely enthralled by the vibrant landscapes, intuitive gameplay, and charming characters I encountered on my journey. That's very important, by the way. If you're someone who is looking at that number next to, oh, there's a fourth one, do I have to play the other 3? No, you can just jump right into this one, and it'll introduce you to everything, and you can pretty much latch on and have a good time with it based on what some of these reviews have said, which there are many reviews that are just like, yeah, this is my first Pikmin, and I really liked it, so good to hear. I do want to go to the opposite end of the spectrum, though, from GameSpot, giving it a 70, which is actually one of the lower scores. That story, like most of Pikmin 4, is gentle and unobtrusive. It's all just very agreeable and sweet, and there's a certain gratification that comes from directing your little army of plant people to gather treasures like fruits and Game Boy Advance cartridges. The more Pikmin 4 leans into fashioning itself after a more traditional game with competition and fail states, the more prone it is to getting in its own way. Sometimes it's enough to simply have a relaxing activity. Also, there seemed to be a lot of praise around the visuals in the game, which you can download the demo and check for yourself, but yeah, the game does look really good. Again, Unreal Engine, it also being on the Switch, technically at this point, an aging system, but it's able to push out some pretty good visuals for Pikmin 4 and what it's asking, and it does also make me wonder about, again, the successor to the Switch, and maybe this being a good candidate to check out again through backwards compatibility, if maybe that next system is able to boost up to 4K even through upscaling, or maybe this is a game that comes later on in the life, as we're getting close to the end of the Switch, to where it gets some attention from Nintendo with a patch as a way to kind of show off the next system. But of course, that's a video discussion for another day, maybe sometime next year. As it stands now, though, Pikmin 4 looks like another good title from Nintendo, following up with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Bit of a drop-off with everybody wanting to Switch, but back again with Pikmin 4. So it looks like, as I mentioned, the second half of 2023 is going to be pretty good for Nintendo. I will get Pikmin 4, though. I said I would tomorrow when it comes out, and I'll see what I think. Next up, let's talk about Diablo IV, which is a little over a month and a half old now, and people have really enjoyed this game since it released. And I know there have been some issues with the title, and people have tried to give feedback to Blizzard as to things that can be fixed and updated and all this. And that's typically what happens with these larger games, especially some as complex as a Diablo title. So people were thinking, well, they'll get the feedback, they'll work to fix up the game, and when that big patch comes through for the start of Season 1, which is today, then we should have a better game on the other side. Well, seems like things actually went the opposite direction, and now it's to the point where people just don't even really want to play the game anymore. Well, we can see this over on their website with the patch notes. This is patch 1.1.0a, and it's quite lengthy. There is a lot. There are videos going over this, and they spend like an hour discussing all the patches, because, I mean, you could see each class has like its own set of 10 or 12 bullet points, and the long and short of it is, the thing that's really annoying to people right now is it seems like the main target or the main goal of this large patch, outside of some bug fixes, was to kind of nerf or weaken a lot of the different players in this game. So at that point, everything kind of kills you faster. Your characters, they say, become more squishy, and you just don't do as much damage. Which means that people who have already put hundreds of hours into this game, building out characters, going through skill trees, carefully min-maxing all the different characters' aspects, and now it's kind of been flipped on its side, and they're just trying to figure out, okay, how do I make this work? But even people who are really good at the game are just looking at Blizzard saying, well, you just made this entire game way more tiresome and annoying to play, so I don't really feel like doing that now. And it appears that Blizzard is hearing the people, because you can see this posted up over on Twitter. This is from Adam, who's the Global Community Development Director for all things Diablo, saying we've been hearing feedback from players regarding some of the changes in 1.1.0 for Diablo 4. We're going to have a campfire chat later this week on Friday, talk more about it. We will have more details and timing in the next day. Thanks again for the feedback, and again, not exactly met with the most excitement online. I'm curious what exactly they're going to say during that fire chat. I mean, you feel like they would have played the game after the patch during testing. Again, I know there's Q&A that's basically done by early adopters with these kind of games, but these are games that go on for a long, long time. They're live service titles, and it's a double-edged sword. In some cases, they can fix characters that are vastly overpowered and everybody knows it, kind of bring them back down to earth. But on the other side, they can also just completely bury characters kind of whenever they want, just on a whim. So yeah, here's hoping they can kind of work this out with the community and figure out how to make Diablo IV apparently fun again. But I guess we'll find out what they have to say during that fire chat, especially with Season 1 now starting up. They probably want more people to come back so they can check out all the cool stuff they have for sale. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the big PlayStation summer sale that is now live. Actually started yesterday, but will be running all the way until August 16th. And this is one of those situations where I think halfway through the sale, more games will be added in. So you're gonna wanna come back and keep an eye on this, see if any games you really wanted to pick up will just randomly go on a steep discount. But we can head over here. This is over on their store page for PlayStation. And we can just kind of scroll through some of the deals. I guess some of the big ones would be like Elden Ring. That's 30% off. Hogwarts Legacy is 20% off. Dead Island 2, 25% off. The Last of Us Part 1 is 25% off. Hey, Red Dead Redemption 2, if you've never played it, it's 67% off. And there have been rumors that maybe there's some sort of update coming at some point, or maybe they'll just do a remaster release for it, who knows. But then Sekiro, that is 50% off. Dead Space Remake, 30% off. Resident Evil Village, that's 50% off. Not a bad pickup if maybe you have PSVR 2 and you wanted to experience the VR mode of Village. Might as well grab it when it's discounted like that. Forspoken is 50% off. They've been working through different patches Square Enix has to make that game better. Seems like they figured out some of the technical stuff there. Sonic Frontiers, that's the PS4 and PS5 version, is 50% off. Monster Hunter Rise is 50% off. Wild Hearts, that's 40% off. Theater Rhythm Final Bar Line, which is a game that everybody plays it seems to absolutely love. That one is 25% off. Bloodborne, that's 50% off, keeping the dream alive there for some sort of patch. The Uncharted Nathan Drake collection, I always like to recommend collections. This one is $10. Of course, gets you quite a few Uncharted games there. Dying Light 2 is 50% off. The Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga, that one's 67% off. Nier Automata, 50% off. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, 75% off. Guilty Gear Strive, 25% off. And the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, 75% off. Oh, and I just want to give a shout out here to finish up with Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, 83% off. I mean, really, $5 for that game. And there are still several more pages with different discounts for games. So go ahead and take a look, and of course, leave some suggestions down below in the comments. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, on October 20th, two big games release. Which game are you playing first? 44% say Super Mario Bros. Wonder, 31% say Spider-Man 2, and then 25% are just not getting either game, all right? Well, I saw some people a bit surprised. They're like, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, what's that about? Why are people playing that over Spider-Man 2? Some are even thinking that Spider-Man 2 is gonna sell more than Super Mario Bros. Wonder, so it makes no sense. I actually think Super Mario Bros. Wonder is going to outsell Spider-Man 2 immediately, and probably in the long run, to be honest. Look, Spider-Man 2 is releasing on a platform that's probably gonna have, what, a third? Maybe less than that. I would say about a third of the Switch's install size at that time. And it's Mario. We just had the Mario movie. It's a 2D Mario game. It's very approachable. So yeah, I think you'll see Super Mario Bros. Wonder do better in terms of the sales numbers, sales charts, all of that. But I wouldn't be shocked if Spider-Man 2 scored higher, say, on Metacritic. But either way, October 20th, we get a brand new, really good looking 2D Mario game and an awesome looking Spider-Man game with Venom in it. So at that point, gamers just went across the board. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Mandaro, says, servers were fixed because HD releases are coming to Switch. Now servers are fixed and going to become crossplay. What's really funny is if they, say, took Black Ops 2 and they moved it over to the Switch, it would probably do really well there. I mean, it would be 60 frames, no problem. It would look better than we probably even have on the Xbox Series right now, especially the time to smooth things out. And going from the 360 to the Switch, they can do a lot there in terms of some of the upgrades around visuals and stuff. So that's not a bad idea, because as we are seeing, people still love these games. And you know what? I played Black Ops 1 because, yeah, it's backwards compatible and all this. Servers are up. Well, let me check it out. It's like 300,000 people online when I hopped on. Like, this is ridiculous. But I mean, those are classic titles, and they're still really, really fun to play. So unless they're going to make their own, like, Master Chief collection of all the old Call of Duty games, why not port one to the Switch and see what happens? And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was Metroid Prime 2 Remastered potentially dropping out of nowhere, or do you think Nintendo will save that maybe for a fall direct to put out around then? And then also, what about this whole Diablo 4 situation with the community not being happy with this patch? Let me know if you're someone who's been spending a ton of time in Diablo 4 and what your thoughts are on this latest update. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.